Coming to us out of the sky, the familiar voice of radio brings endless hours of entertainment, information, and cheer.
Over the past few years, this podcast has received a lot more attention. I've been invited on panels, other podcasts, and even interviewed for articles in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. Okay, mainly in regards to all things audio description, but the podcast does get mentioned. Whenever I talk about the podcast, I use the full name of the show, Read My Mind Radio. For some reason, many people seem to refer to the podcast as Read My Mind. No radio. This podcast doesn't exist without the radio. Read My Mind Radio began because I was creating original content for the Gateway Radio reading service in New York City. To access the reading service, you had to have a special radio receiver. I wanted to share the content with others outside of the service, so I just put these audio files up on my already existing blog called Read My Mind. I figured anytime I would add the audio files, I just title it Read My Mind Radio. Sounded better than Read My Mind Audio. I didn't really intend to make it a podcast because there was no real focus at the time. Well, I wasn't focused. When I did decide to make it a real podcast, I kept the name. It sounded cool to me. I'm your host and producer, Thomas Reed, and this is Read My Mind Radio. Today,
this is just something for the radio.
Read
my mind.
Read
my mind.
When making that theme music, I chose to use the radio from the Crash Crew, high-powered rap. But I had other choices.
I can't live without my radio.
Yeah, maybe not the last one. Just not funky enough for me. No hate. Radio's not just a means of getting information, entertainment, and more, but it's also about actively using our imaginations. It was audio description before there was a name for it. News, sports, entertainment, all delivered via radio, where blind people and the rest of the hearing public enjoyed a shared experience. Radio was the way we discovered new music. I remember having a tape ready to record that song that I fell in love with, or the Friday and Saturday night mix shows, Chuck Chillout, Marley Marl, and of course, Red.
DJ Red Alert is blowing it up.
Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. This was the time when I had aspirations of being a DJ. Not necessarily the jock or the announcer, but more so a DJ cutting and scratching.
Cutting and scratching all the aspects of his game.
When I eventually began sharing my Gateway productions on the blog, I can't say that I consciously thought about anything related to the radio.
1, 2, 3.
Read My Mind Radio just came to me. And unless I change the name of the entire podcast, the radio is here to stay. Read My Mind, the blog, began in 2005. When I learned how to use my screen reader and other access technology, I was no longer doing any sort of development work, and I wanted to learn more about content management systems, CMS. I enjoyed writing and thought a blog would be a good place to share some of my experiences becoming blind as an adult. A friend one day said something to me like, "What's on your mind, T?" That led me to think about how often it felt like folks were asking me that same question. I thought to myself, I should just write it down and then point anyone to the blog who really wants to know, giving them access to what I'm thinking, or, in a way, inviting them to read my mind. The blog began with some commentary on my experiences, but I don't think I was ready to share at that time. I didn't really know what I was feeling, and I'm sure a lot of that would have been rants about how I was perceived in public spaces. Some of that could have been the difference in how I was treated by friends and family following blindness. All of these things have value, but it felt more like a rant that I'd prefer to keep private. There's nothing wrong with sharing these experiences, but for me, it's about doing so creatively and in a way that can be of help to others. That's why podcasting and content creation in general by those with disabilities is so important. Whether we're talking to one another or to those outside of the community, our voices, all of our voices, are valuable. Over the years, we have and will continue to support disabled podcasters in various ways. That could mean bringing other podcasters on as guests when it fits the theme, but I hope to show support by featuring some promos. This year, I've had the pleasure of being invited to guest on other podcasts and talk about audio description, podcasting, and even share some thoughts on being a blind dad. Some of you may know I'm always ready to talk about my girls. In fact, some would say I often find a way to bring them into my conversations on just about anything. True. Shout out to all of those podcasts who invited me on their platforms. On that note, I need to apologize for a mistake in the last episode. I incorrectly referred to Lisa Bryant's podcast as White Stick Connect. Duh, it's White Canes Connect. Shout out to White Stick Music Fest in Australia, though. I guess they were on my mind.
Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect. My name is David Goldstein. I am the treasurer of the Keystone Chapter. Joining me today is co-host and Keystone Chapter second vice president, Lisa Bryant.
I cannot not ask you about the AD Illuminati. We have to talk about this. White Canes Connect. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Take care.
Shout out to Chad over at Hindsight is 20/200.
On social media, please go to Twitter at Unsighted Radio. That's at UNSYTED Radio. And make sure you're following on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Just search for Hindsight is 20/200.
Hey, it's John Grimes, host of the Ambiguously Blind podcast, where we are challenging beliefs and revealing abilities that make people extraordinary. Check us out anywhere podcasts are found and at ambiguouslyblind.com.
While it's not officially a podcast,
welcome to
big shout out to This Ability Clinic on YouTube with Dr. Stephanie.
And I'm a rehabilitation doctor that specializes in pain medicine. But you're here for the lepidopterist, aren't you?
Well, you probably don't know what that is if you never watched the film The Kingsman.
You here for the lepidopterist, ain't you?
So, the disability that gets the most screen time in the Kingsman movies is Harry's penetrating traumatic brain injury.
See, Dr. Stephanie does these cool movie breakdowns where she, for example, points out what's real or not about medical situations in film.
Is he dead?
Yes. This should have killed him.
Other breakdowns include disability in film, as well as interviews with a bunch of disabled folks from different backgrounds. She's a doctor who understands that disability goes beyond the medical model. She has a really cool edit style and a great personality.
I agree with that.
Harry's like a computer that needs to be rebooted.
Harry's like a computer that's been shot on the hard drive point blank.
Shout out to Jude Esposito in the UK.
Welcome back to the Thea Show.
Jude is a part of the family and is a young podcaster himself. He's in high school, and I think we'll see some big things from this young man. Check out his podcast. It's called The Thea Show. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon. TheaForAll.org. That's TheaForAll.org.
I think we've really hit so many different aspects of the conversation, and I'm so thankful that we were able to make this happen finally. Thanks for coming on.
See you soon.
It doesn't cost you anything to give them a listen. One night in 2014, I came across an application for the Association of Independence in Radio New Voice Scholarship. It was only a few hours before the application deadline. I listened to the voice inside that told me, go for it. I got it. Going for it was a gut reaction that honestly I don't remember even questioning. It was as if I knew it was for me and I just had to complete the process. Mind you, I felt that way multiple times since, and let's just say it wasn't a success. But that's okay. It wasn't for me. Becoming a New Voice Scholar set off a series of events that led to the opportunity to create original content for Gatewave Radio. So do you believe in magic? This is Thomas Reed for Gatewave Radio.
I noticed that there's nobody there.
Audio for independent living. Ever since, the opportunities continue to present themselves in ways I would never have even thought about. Among them, my guests. I've had the chance to talk and build with really cool people doing cool stuff. Occasionally, I see articles online about someone doing great things or getting an award or receiving a new position, and I'm like, hey, that's RMM fam. I love that. Many have become dear friends and colleagues on other projects. Unfortunately, we lost one of our Read My Mind radio family brothers this summer. One of the original Holman Prize winners, Ojak Simon, passed away. I don't really know the details about his passing, but I do know that his work teaching other blind brothers and sisters in Uganda how to support themselves and their families through beekeeping and farming honey will continue to benefit his community and others around the world. When I think of Ojak, I always remember that part of the conversation when he told me about how much he enjoyed the process of getting honey when he was younger. Specifically, it was the praise that he received from his grandmother. It inspired me to just put that audio over a beat. You know how I do.
Yeah. Shout out to my man Ojak Simon. Check it.
I love eating honey. I want to get praises. They go nowhere. I love eating honey. I want to get praises. They go nowhere.
Rest in peace, King. Hearing from listeners is a big, big benefit for me. You know, listeners like you are all over the world. Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Asia. Do you know an episode of Read My Mind Radio titled Let Me Hear You Say Black Lives Matter is a chapter in a disability studies textbook being used in universities? Big shout out to Professor Tanya Tishkishki. Tanya, I'm wrecking it. Big shout out to Professor Tanya Tishkisi and all those involved in putting together Disappearing, Encounters in Disability Studies. For your information, we're Chapter 4. Let's go. No bragging or nothing like that. I'm truly sharing with y'all because you rock with the podcast. You take time out of your day to listen, which means you believe in what's taking place here. I'm just trying to let you know others rock with your choice too, and I appreciate you all. Every year around the holiday season, I start to feel the effect of producing the podcast. I get tired and start to contemplate bringing it to an end. I used to raise the idea to my youngest daughter as we chatted over dinner or cleaning up the kitchen together. She would insist that I keep it going. I'd ask why, but she didn't really explain past, no, you just should keep it going. I don't know. I wonder if she could articulate it a little bit more today. Call Raven.
A raven is any of several larger-bodied bird species of the genus Corvus.
What?
These species do
I
not
didn't ask
form
you
a
that.
single taxonomic group within the genus. Shall I continue?
No. Call Raven.
Calling Raven Read Mobile.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey. You got a quick second?
Yeah, what's up?
I'm recording you right now. This is for the
Ooh.
podcast. And so... Back in the day, remember when I would say anything about...
You would say a lot.
I would say something about stopping the podcast.
Yes, all the time.
It wasn't all the time, but yeah, toward this time of year.
Yeah.
You would tell me not to. I want to see if you have something articulate to say as to why. If you don't have anything articulate to say, I won't put it in there. So why did you always say no, keep the podcast going?
Well, I think that the podcast has been more influential than you think. And I feel like you get to talk to a lot of cool people. You enjoy editing. I feel like you do enjoy it just in general. And like it reaches people. I always thought that you should keep it going. Plus, how am I supposed to get money for transcripts? There's no podcast.
I wanted the truth. Now, for those dads out there, I'm just saying, if you have more than one daughter and you include one on your podcast, you better make every attempt to include the other. Hey Siri, call Rihanna.
Calling Rihanna Reed iPhone.
Hey, sweetie, how are you? It's Daddy. I'm recording you right now for the podcast.
Is this my big role?
Rihanna didn't have much to say on that subject because, honestly, she was never a part of that conversation. She was away at school when Raven and I would be talking about that. But I gave her an opportunity and asked her to just give me one of her favorite moments of the podcast.
My favorite thing that I enjoy about the podcast, I got nothing.
Apparently, my wife and I raised two brutally honest children. I'm not done yet, but I have to figure out where Read My Mind Radio is going and how I'm going to get it there. In order to do that, I need to do some work. That's in addition to the other work and life. But I can say for certain today that I'll be back next year with flipping the script on audio description. And probably some bonus episodes. So please keep rocking with me. Stay subscribed or continue following the podcast. If you're someone who really cares about audio description, you'll be interested in some new additional content that will soon show up in the Read My Mind Radio feed. We call it Blind-Centered Audio Description Chats, or BCAD Chats. The audio we're sharing are edited versions of these audio description conversations that take place on Twitter, LinkedIn Audio, and possibly some other live platforms. They began from conversations between Nefertiti Matos Olivares, Cheryl Green, and myself. And we're joined by Scott Blank and Scott Nixon, a.k.a. the two Scotts. One of them's from down under. Come check it out. You'll figure out which one it is. I'll be dropping those in the feed under a separate season in order to distinguish from Read My Mind Radio. If you're into the flipping the script on audio description, I think you'll enjoy these edited versions of the live chats. And consider joining us live because, that's where it all goes down. Check the blog post for this episode, and I'll link you to the different ways of staying updated on the live events. All right, allow me to wish you all a very, very happy holiday season. The absolute best in 2023, whatever that means for you. As long as best for you doesn't mean keeping someone else down, then I'm good with that.
Hi, this is Rihanna Reed. Allow me to introduce the 2022 Read My Mind Radio Wrap.
All Hit Radio. All right, you're listening to All Hit Radio.
What goes better with the holiday season than a wrap-up? It's been a minute since I've done one. But before I get into the 2022 season, I'm going to talk my talk. We got a brand new hit for TREID, dedicated to the RMM family. For those new here, paying attention, I want to take some time just to mention my brothers and sisters who've been on this scene. Rocking with a brother since 2014. There's a lot of podcasts, many come and go, but ain't nothing like Read My Mind Radio. Now, I don't usually talk that, but the success of this podcast is all about the guests. Yeah, I make it funky, but it's all about the guests. Now just allow me 8 more bars so I can get out my feelings. Yep. Okay, my name, it means a lot to me. I spell it every episode, R-E-I-D. So if I do an interview or a panel presentation, listen to the podcast name. Feel my frustration? It ain't personal, so I don't assign blame. But I want to yell out, put some respect on my name. But I play it cool cause my daddy told me so. Come on, don't forget my radio. Okay, I got it off my chest. Now it's time for the wrap-up and some shout-outs. 3 seasons in 2022, plus bonus episodes. But it all starts with the guest.
We want to let people know you in here. We want to let people know you in here tonight.
They come on as guests and then become fam. Marguerite kicked it off. She's like, so here I am. Brandon, Orlando, Aaron, just a few. Disabled gamers, yeah, we play too. She made Puffin' Out of Nothing for accessibility.
Hi, I'm Adriana Mojave.
Chosen a season called Doing Your Thing. Question, Blind and Famous. Gang. Yo, I need y'all to understand, I am not playing. I'm tired of people thinking that disability needs to sound like X, Y, or Z. Update your perception, son. It sounds like him, her, they, and me. Y'all gonna learn today. Alright, let me chill.
What are we talking about here?
The Axis Lab, Proficelli and Salima, AD in the making with Cheryl Green Eye. Lining AD, yo, why the controversy? Neff shouldn't have to tell you.
We are worthy.
Okay, let me chill, we should really move on. AD in fashion.
Natalie Trevon.
You want AD in Spanish? I got something for you. Flipping the script for La Profesora. Now look, don't get it twisted. I have fun, but I take this AD thing seriously. It's why we drafted the pledge for cultural competency. People out here trying to hold back blind people from working in this industry, I see you. People say they're for diversity, well, put your money where your mouth is. YGPD, let's go. Disaster prep with disability in mind. Just a shorty, young, gifted, black and blind. Self-description with Harber and Germa. You can't describe yourself, then why not learn, bro? The years almost up, we don't have much time. Advocating for the deafblind. Closing out the year, all ladies, no misters. Lisa, Heather, supporting our sisters. Yo, to the entire Read My Mind Radio family, I appreciate you and thank you sincerely for rocking with me over the years. Salute. I want to send a big shout out to Annie, are you okay? Our social media maven for hooking up that FB and IG over at Read My Mind Radio. Appreciate you, sis. Shout out my guy Tony Swartz who came through on the editing help this year. Salute. I want to shout out my daughters, Raven, for always helping Daddy with the transcripts when you can. Brianna, one of my biggest supporters, always listening and giving feedback. My wife, Marlette, for helping out with graphics and other things. Oh man, Daddy loves his babies. Remember, we'll be back in 2023. So tell a friend because the catalog is out here. Stay rocking with Read My Mind Radio wherever you get podcasts. We have transcripts and more over at readmymind.com. And all you gotta do is remember. You know what? Let's do it like this. It's easy to remember it like this. Check this out. R to the motherfunky E-I-D. I said it's the R to the motherfunky E-I-D. I said it's the R to the motherfunky E-I-D. I said it's the R to the motherfunky
D, and that's me in the place to be.
Like my last name.
This is just something for the radio.
Peace.